Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. Got a special guest on the pod today, a man who is covering our Atlanta Hawks for Clutch Points, the beat reporter Malik Brown, joining us today. How are you doing today, sir?
My guy Bryce, I'm doing good, man. Thanks so much for having me on, man. I'm honored, bro. I'm honored for sure.
Yeah, man. If you've been part of the journey for me, Malik's been on here a couple of times talking about some Hawks, so this may not be the first time you've heard him. For people who are new, definitely follow him. Definitely connect with him on social. Malik, let him know where to find you real quick.
You guys can find me Twitter, Instagram, literally everywhere, _Malik ATL. But I'm mostly on Twitter, so make sure you guys give me a follow, man. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead and support my guy for sure, as he's covering our team all season long. But now we got to get into a discussion about our team. Obviously, the Hawks sitting at 4-7 right now. Not a lot of fans are happy about the record, but the Hawks have dealt with injuries. Fatigue has played a factor because they've been having to put so many minutes, especially on their key players. I believe Jalen and Trae Young led the league in total minutes up to this point in the season, which is not ideal this early. Obviously, the NBA schedule has not been favorable. Basically, this was their first 2-day break between games since the season started, going into tonight's game. So they've basically done 1-day rest, back-to-backs, and just playing 9 games in 14 days. But overall, through everything we've seen, we've also seen some positive. We've seen some flashes. Riascher, Dyson has been a just becoming a fan favorite, even though he's split depending on who you ask, and everything under the sun. But I want to get your opinion, sir, on what have you seen from this Hawks team through these first 11 games? Is it cause for concern? Is it just a matter of getting healthy? What are the positive and negatives so far overall you've seen from this team?
I think to start with the positives, the processing that's going on both sides of the ball. I think it's really well. I've been saying it since like DeJounte was here. I think the offense runs better when Trae is running the show. And of course, I mean, with DeJounte here, it was kind of hard. I kind of felt like they were kind of like going back and forth, like, you know, my time to shine, my time to shine. But now you get a chance where Trae's fully running the show. And I mean, you see what's happening. I mean, he's putting up 30. Well, he's not averaging 30, but I mean, some nights he's putting up 30 and 10. I mean, he's still getting his teammates involved. But I think the main thing, and of course, Jalen, of course, everybody was kind of scared the first 3 games because he wasn't doing really well. But since those 3 games, he's been really showing up, you know, scoring, grabbing rebounds, getting teammates involved as well. So I really like that 1-2 punch that him and Trae and Jalen have. But I mean, you think about the guys like Dyson. Dyson was definitely the biggest acquisition the Hawks got this offseason. And it's funny, I was just thinking about it. When they announced the trade, they didn't even announce Dyson first. Shams mentioned Larry Nance Jr. first. It kind of felt like Dyson was like a throw-in kind of sort of. But everybody knew like what he was capable of on defense, and everybody knew Hawks fans that they needed defense. So I think Dyson at this point, I feel like he's exceeding expectations at this point on that side of the ball. And of course, he's fitting in on offense as well. Zach, of course, Zach is going through he's going through a rookie season. He's having ups and downs. Last week, he has a big 30-point game. And I think the next game against the Pistons, he has like maybe like 7 points or something like that. But that's the rookie ebbs and flows. But I like what he's doing, most specifically on defense. He's been really showing out on there. But I think those are the main 4 players right now that are, you know, Hawks fans and people are really looking at right now. But I guess the one negative thing is injuries. That's the negative thing. I mean, you go down before the season even starts, Kobe's out. And then after the first game, Bogey's out. They're both supposed to be reevaluated at the same time, maybe in like 2 more weeks. Then the next week, Veit gets hurt. So those are like all of the kind of sort of like ball handlers, and which means that puts more pressure on Trae. And Trae, like you said, earlier, him and Jalen are leading the league in minutes, number 1 and number 2. Trey just played 41 minutes against Detroit. The next night he's playing 38 minutes against Chicago. It's not sustainable. It's just, I mean, we love, like, he's young. Yeah, he's young, but like people get tired. Like that's a human thing. And like playing that much basketball and having the ball in his hand as much as he is, I know he's probably won't. So, which probably leads to, this injury that popped up recently. But yeah, I think that's the one negative. Injuries is the one negative thing. I think you get Bogey back out there, you get another solidified shooter. It spaces the floor. It gives the Hawks more options on offense. I do have a take about the whole Kobe. I like Kobe. I thought he was going to be one of the surprise players on the team. But Keaton Wallace has definitely showed out in his absence. So I definitely think that kind of relieves the backup point guard just a little bit. But yeah, man, I think the one negative is definitely injuries. I think everybody can kind of say that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been tough dealing with it. I mean, only team maybe with worse injury luck is the Pelicans. I think Jose Alvarado just got announced that he's going to be out for a few weeks. Yeah. So clearly the Bird teams this year are a little cursed. But one thing about where the season is right now is the Eastern Conference, only 2 teams are over 500. This is not running away from the Hawks at all. This is not something where they are just extremely behind the 8 ball. But as a Hawks fan, you also feel like there were some games that they could have won, they didn't. And so that kind of goes into the fatigue question. Obviously, you've been around the team a little bit. You've seen them. Do they look tired to you? I mean, Quinn mentioned it last week after a game. He was like, those guys are worn out. And I know some people say, oh, some of the guys are young. They shouldn't be tired. But at the end of the day, you're traveling. That's tough. NBA players mentioned travel is tough. And then you're playing so many minutes, especially guys like Dyson, Jalen. Jalen basically, I feel like, is almost playing 40 a night every night. Trey, things of that nature. Do they look like they are a team that's just tired right now?
Definitely. I think the Bulls game was you could see it. Like you could literally see it. Like, I mean, of course they had the 3/4 of the game, they were great, making their shots and things like that. And they kind of, and Trey and Quinn kind of mentioned it, and Clint actually mentioned it after the game on Saturday. They were kind of like, Billy Donovan literally just put the bench in, and he just basically told them to run. That's literally what they did, run. They didn't even, Trey said it wasn't even like they were running plays. They were just beating them up and down the court. And Billy Donovan realized that the Hawks had played 5 games in 7 days. And Trey mentioned it after the game as well. I can't remember the specific quote. But he said they've had 3 back-to-backs in these past 2 weeks. And it's not even like the back-to-backs are like, you get a home game on Friday, you get a home game on Saturday. They're literally going on the road on the first day and coming back home the second day, or home the first day and away the second day. Like that's, like you said, travel. It's a lot of travel. They look tired. Trey specifically, he looked worn out on Saturday. I could see it. Like literally, they were holding onto their pants, their shorts. Like it was a lot of players. Like I think, if anybody remembers when Dosunmu got that breakaway dunk and Zach fouled him, and you could see Zach like on the far side of the court, like bending down, like he's tired. And he was 19. He's the youngest guy on the court. But so it really doesn't matter like what age. Like if you're playing as many minutes all the time, like you're gonna get tired. So yeah, you can definitely see it. You can definitely see it with Trey, of course, because he's playing the most minutes. I don't really see it with Jalen as much. I'm sure he's tired though, but
yeah, kind of really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it does play a part. I know some guys caught flack about bringing up the fatigue. Some people, because some people. One thing I always tell people is everybody has a narrative, everybody has perception, and some people just feel these things are not excuses. But it's like at the end of the day, you can't say it's not something that can impact a team.
Right.
Especially when you're only getting 1 day off. You only get 24 hours, and then you got rev back up again. That could be tough, and things of that nature. So, it'll be interesting to kind of see as they get healthier. I think DeAndre Hunter come back will be big. A lot of people are saying I can't believe it, but I'm saying I need DeAndre Hunter back in my lineup. But they do, because DeAndre can, play some minutes that can cut down some of the minutes on the wings. It can help with overall depth in general with the team, and things of that nature. So going into like just the defensive side, because that's been a side that obviously was one of the worst for this team last season. This season, obviously, you mentioned Dyson and the impact he's made defensively. I think Riascher has made an impact defensively. I think, Keaton Wallace has been really good defensively for them. They have some guys, they have some pieces that, you could see the vision there of like, oh, this could be a good defensive team because you have some defenders. And obviously Clint, when he's on the floor, their defensive rating is better than when any other center is on the floor. Right. So when you look at the defense, you would assume, right, that if DeAndre comes back and then Kobe comes back and, they get in better health, we may see a more fuller defensive performance, because sometimes, it's the NBA, play good for a few quarters and you have a quarter you're just terrible. Like the Pistons game, first quarter, terrible. Outside of that, they were fine. Do you think that the defense has a lot more growing and it can be even better than what we've seen, like I said, when we get bodies back? And, talk about a little bit about Dyson and his impact in that role, just because of the impact he's made leading the league in steals right now.
Yeah, definitely. I know for sure that they'll be better defensively when they get some bodies back. Because I mean, you lose Dre and Veet, and I mean Veet may not get as much credit, but last year when he was getting minutes, he was pretty solid defensively. Keep bodies in front of him and things like that. So you get V back, but DeAndre, and I'm glad we're on the. We want Dre back. We need him back. We're back on that train, because I mean, granted, through the first two games he played well on both sides of the ball. So you get a body back like Dre. Dre's always been known as that kind of defensive guy. I think you'll be good. Right now, what they've been doing, I think is still good. But you're still guys that are really kind of not known for their defense. So you're playing David Roddy extra minutes, and David Roddy has shown spurts on offense. He's been doing some things on offense, but recently, or really the whole season, he really hasn't been good on defense. Teams are kind of just blowing past him. And I mean, he's kind of flat-footed, but yeah, I mean, he really hasn't been good defensive. Garrison really isn't known as a defensive guy, but one of those, I don't know what game, I think it maybe was Chicago. He was really active defensively, or maybe it was New York. I'm not sure. It was one of those games.
Yeah, Garrison tries. Garrison tries, for sure.
Really active defensively. But at the same time, he's not known as a defensive guy. Bogey, of course, is known as a defensive guy, but I mean, you want to have him out there for offense. But the guys that you're really looking forward to come back when it comes to defense is Bogey, is Kobe, because Kobe's was known for it when he got minutes last year. Everybody was talking about when he was locking up Kyrie and he was getting steals and things like that. So definitely getting those players back will be big. Right now, what Dyson is doing, like I said, I truly feel like what he's doing is just exceeding expectations. I mean, the guy's averaging over 3 steals a game. He's getting over 7.4 deflections a game. He's leading the league in deflections. He's really making an impact, and it's good to have a player like that you can trust on, that is going to guard the opposing team's best player every night, make their life double hockey stick. but he's going to give him trouble. He's going to give him trouble. I mean, you can just think about some of the matchups he's had. He's had Cade. He did good against Jalen. I mean, he's had a few. He's been matched up on Brandon Ingram. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Like, he's been doing good against these players, and he's really active. And Quinn mentioned, I asked Quinn before the game on Saturday, like just his impact. And he's like, usually when somebody has that many steals or deflections, they're gambling, and when you gamble and you cheat like that, it's an open shot or something is going to be available. But Quinn is like, he's still in the play, like he's gambling and cheating, and he's still staying on these bodies. Like that's impressive to me. So I like what he's doing. I like the pairing of him and Zachary together. Like I said, Zachary's been really showing out on defense. And I think that's really what the future of the Hawks is going to be. Like you're going to have Dyson, Zachary, Jalen at the 2, 3, and 4 spot, just causing havoc, and that's what you need. And I'm sure you saw it. Somebody posted earlier, like today, the best 4-man defensive lineup, and it was Trey, Dyson, Jalen, and Clint. I think, but I know Trey was in there, and everybody was like, "Oh, nobody thought that Trey would be there." But yeah, like I mean, I think what they're doing on defense is good. Like I said, the process on both sides of the ball has been good, but once you get bodies back, I think you really get to see a more full potential.
Yeah, and I think too, part of that growth process too is just like I said, you're learning. The Hawks are learning how to play a different way again. Like people don't realize the Hawks' offense has changed from last year to this year, and their defense has changed from last year to this year because of the personnel. So they're kind of still doing new things with what they have because they have a different team to do it. And I think that is also part of the process. That's why it hurts losing the guys they've lost early because of the fact that this was part of the cohesion and the growth of this team. And now they have to kind of make it work with the injuries, which, like I said, you've seen some good things, you've seen some flashes, but you've also seen some of those, poor moments of the game. I mean, the starting lineup has a good defensive rating, but at the same time, think about it. You mentioned Devin Roddy's not a great defender. Garrison Matthews isn't a great defender. You're having to play more negative defenders because of the fact that you have injuries. So that definitely plays a part into it. I'd like to get your thoughts on the center position. That has been something that's been a little interesting. I think Clint, I've said this before, and this was before I think it was the Knicks game, I believe. I said Clint really hasn't done anything. He hasn't had like a Clint game, a big Clint game. He hasn't really, I don't think he's gotten 10 rebounds a lot this season. Jalen leads the team in rebounding, which just shows the type of rebounder he is. But I said that obviously he's taking better shots. He's not doing all the hooks and all the, put, missing, And so he's had a better percentage from the field. Okongwu has had good games, but he's also had, games where he wasn't good. So he's been extremely up and down. And Larry Nance, people would say maybe when he plays has been the most consistent out of all three of the guys. And Quinn mentioned that, how it's like he's a guy who deserves to be a rotation player. He has to figure out how he can get him minutes. And one thing we've seen recently is he'll have Onyeka and Larry Nance on the floor at the same time. What is your thoughts on the handling of that position? And do you think, with people who may need some centers, that one of those guys may be moved before the trade deadline?
Yeah, it's what the Hawks have had at the center position for like the past 3-4 years has been a luxury. I'm not gonna lie, like that center rotation has been nice. And then you add in a guy like Larry Nance, it just makes it even better. And it's kind of like, dang, how are we gonna get minutes for all these guys? And Quinn has found a way, of course, to get Clint and Onyeka solid minutes. Like, sometimes, and I've said this far so far this season, it's honestly been about matchups. And maybe who has the high hand. I think, Onyeka, what season opener he had, like 20 something and like 9 or something like that. Like, but it was the matchups, and I mean, he was taking advantage of those matchups. I think kind of throughout the season, we're still trying to figure out, I guess, what Quinn is trying to do with the center rotation. I know a lot of fans were kind of like upset at what he was doing against the Wizards matchups, where he was like putting Onyeka in when Valanciunas was in, but putting Clint in when Alex Sarr was in, and it was like, what are we doing? But I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's about matchups. And they're both playing good. Clint has been playing really good. I really love what Clint did last game. He's been playing really well. And of course, it's just like, Clint, he's getting older. So, like, he's not the same center that the Hawks traded for in 2019, 2020. Like, that's when he was kind of like, he was huge for the Hawks. And I still think he's huge for the Hawks, being that anchor. Of course, him and Onyeka bring different things. Onyeka is more like you can switch more with Onyeka. Like, you can kind of bring him on the perimeter and guard, and Onyeka, he can space the floor as well a little bit. What Nance is doing has been big. Nance can shoot the ball. He's really good. But it's kind of hard to put him in the lineup, because it seems like Quinn and the Hawks kind of value him more as a 5 than a 4. I know he got some minutes at the 4 against the Bulls, but I think at some point you do look at trading maybe Nance. Like, you look at the Thunder situation right now, and being down Hardenstein and Chet now, so they may look into something like that. But it always takes 2 teams to make a deal. So at the end of the day, we don't know what that's going to look like. But I do think one of them, I think Nance probably gets traded towards the deadline. I think shout out to Brad. I think Brad or maybe Kale, somebody. They were like, he's like the 3rd best center. Like, he might be the 3rd, like the best 3rd center in the league, and it's true. Like, sitting on the bench, but he like can impact the team. So that's why I think the center rotation. I like the rotation, but I think at the end of the day, it's kind of clogged, and somebody's gonna have to go.
Yeah, and I think too what makes it interesting is that Onyeka probably won't play back-to-backs because they're still managing his foot injury from time to time. So I don't know, does that make you as a team hold on to Larry Nance? Because like I said, there's gonna be days where Kongu's not gonna play. Right. And you want to make sure you have a competent 3rd center. Because you would assume if they let him go, they traded Nance and they didn't get a center back, you would assume your 3rd center is Dominic Barlow. That would be your new backup center at that point when Onyeka doesn't play, which, I mean, isn't terrible. I like Barlow, but, it just depends on how they feel about him right now and what they want it to be. So can you talk about, Riascher and how he's been, like you said, you've mentioned that he was kind of up and down. You've been around him. How has his energy been around the team? How has he been absorbing the NBA life? And just, what are you seeing on the floor from him on both sides of the ball? Obviously, he's like, this rookie class in general, everybody came into the season not expecting this to be just some revolutionary rookie class, right? And I remember after a week, I saw a statistic that a lot of the top lottery picks were all not shooting the ball well at all. And it was just like, this isn't shocking that the rookie class that we all were like, this isn't game-changing league, even though there's obviously been some good rookies. We can talk about what's happening in Washington. They have a 3 good rookie core right there. But yeah, can you talk about just Riascher and his process, especially now that he was thrust into a starting role with DeAndre out, and how he's kind of managed that?
Yeah, no, Zach, I like Zach. Zach has, I think he's done more than he's had to do more than I think the Hawks probably expected, of course, because of the injury. So you're putting him in the starting lineup. He's playing a lot of minutes now, but I think what he's doing is good, and I think the Hawks are like really like embracing him. The Hawks really like love what he's doing. Like, every time somebody asks about Zach post game, pre game, it's always good. Quinn always talks about one thing that he sees from Zach is he's having fun. He just wants Zach to have fun. And he wants him to shoot the ball too. I'm sure everybody saw the quote where Zach was like, "Yeah, he tells me to shoot the effing ball." Like, yeah, like we want you. They want you to shoot the ball, and that's what he's doing. And of course, more times than not, the shots haven't gone in, but he's getting really, really good shots. Like, he's getting good shots. Like, he's getting open shots. I don't think he's not forcing anything. And sometimes I think he's being too passive. Like, sometimes I think he's open and he just like does a little move and he passes it. His passing is good though. I love his passing. He reads the floor very well. Offense, like I said, he's a little bit passive, but I think as the season goes on, he's just going to start shooting it when he's open. He's going to start shooting it. And I mean, those type of games that he had against the Knicks, I'm not saying he's going to score 30 every like once a month or twice or 3 times a month, but the shots that he was getting against the Knicks were all good. They were all good shots. And that's all I want to see. Him taking good shots. If he misses them, oh well, like they're gonna go in because he's a shooter. Defensively, he's been playing well. Like I said, him and Dyson have really been like disruptors those spots. And I know shout out to Glenn Willis. Glenn was talking about just at his age, just how like mature he is as a defender, and the stuff that he's doing on the floor as a defender is just like you don't see that from a 19-year-old. Like you kind of see it as they get more reps and stuff in the league, but the stuff he's doing at his age is crazy. So I think what he's doing right now is good. I think it's only going to get better. The team is behind him. He seems happy. Like I'm sure, like sometimes when he's not making shots, like he kind of feel he might be down on himself, but I'm sure his teammates are lifting him up. Like everybody has nothing but good things to say about Zach. And like I said, he's playing more than I expected because, of course, the injuries. But he's doing what he can do, and I think he's playing well.
Yeah, and I think, too, like I said, it's just part of the growth of him, just getting better, just getting more confident in what he's doing. And then after that, you'll see it. I mean, people, like I said, people forget there's a lot of guys in this league who didn't start off great as rookies or light the world on fire. Trae Young is a prime example of that. He did not light the world on fire until after the All-Star break. And that just comes with him just getting experience, growing and learning from the games. You go against different matchups. You just kind of see how the game's played. And then you see it increase in his confidence, and then you see that replicated on the court, which then benefits the team, of course. So obviously a lot of high hopes for Riascher. I think a lot of people really like the fact that we made the selection now, even though it was very split at that time when we made the selection. But I think Riascher is in good shape right now, and it'll be exciting to continue to see him grow as we move forward. So I got 2 more things for you before I let you go, my guy. My next question now is going to Jalen Johnson. So obviously Jalen Johnson coming into the season, new role. I mean, this man's had a new role every year. This man has had one consistent role every year. He just went from show me what you could do to now we need you to be the second option. And, at the beginning of the season, he struggled, and people were just, you heard Dominique Wilkins on broadcast just like selling him like, yeah, like tell him like just don't worry about it. Like it's a mental hurdle. Just move forward. Obviously signing the contract before the year. And we've seen a more consistent performances from Jalen as of recently. Obviously, like I mentioned, he's one of the top rebounders in the league. A guy who, he's starting to get scoring is there. You've seen, like I said, him believing in the work that he has put in this offseason. And that's obviously been a big part, especially with this whole injury situation and trying to get the ball out of Trae's hands. Him taking a role sometimes when Trae's off the floor, being the main, distributor on the offense. And so can you talk about Jalen and what you've seen from him so far this season?
Yeah. I've seen nothing but growth, honestly. I mean, you kind of just look up and he has like 20 and 10. Like, and you're just like, where did this come from? And a lot of that happened last year. When he was coming into like you kind of just look up and he has like 17 some points, and it's like, dang, like where did this come from? Like kind of like a silent killer, honestly. Like, but I mean, you on the court, like when you're watching, he just looks more comfortable. Like I said, I think one of his greatest assets is his playmaking. Like he can really he's really setting up his teammates. He's getting his own shot. He's really been shooting the ball better the past couple of games. I think the one thing that probably wants to improve on is kind of just creating his own offense. Because sometimes he might get stuck in a hard place, and you kind of, at that point, you probably just shooting something up or you making a bad pass or something like that. But other than that, I think really what he's been doing on offense has been helping the Hawks. I mean, at this point, like you keep mentioning injuries, like so people are going to have to step up, and Trae and Jalen have been the ones that are stepping up in the Hawks. And when Trae's off the floor, that makes it even better when he's on the floor and he's still being able to create shots and find his teammates. I think him being able to grab the rebound and just go has been good. I know when he first got in the league, of course, when he was under Nate, he would get the rebound and he would just give it to Trey and they just run. He's able to run and push the ball and find teammates and get his own shot and run the floor and get on the fast break. And I mean, it's leading to points. It's leading to positive things on the court. And defensively, I like what he's doing too. Sometimes, it seems like, he can get a little stagnant on defense, but other than that, I like what he's doing on both sides of the court. Offensively, I think is really where he's needed the most and where I think he's really shined over these past couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I think too that, for me, I think that Jalen, he's a guy who I think, we feel like he has the potential to maybe be an all-star level player. I think one of the first things when we saw him hit the scene, everybody was trying to figure out what is his ceiling. It seems like he can be this low player, which would be great. And obviously, Trey really likes playing with him, as he calls them, peanut butter and jelly. And so, I think that for him, just continuing to get better, continuing to work on his game, because he has a good relationship with Quinn. I know him and Quinn talk a lot. They always are giving each other, feedback, which is obviously very important, especially for Jalen. I think he really enjoys that feedback for him so he can become a better player. And I think it's underrated what Quinn has meant to a lot of these guys because they believe he's a big part of why they've, improved as much as they have. And obviously I know people want to see that result more in wins, but I think you see habits, you see some better play from certain guys, you see what they're trying to do. It's just a process. And like I said, either you're a fan who wants it now or you're willing to be patient and let things develop. And it just kind of depends. But now I got my last question for you, man. And obviously the NBA Cup starts today. Obviously for the Hawks, they are probably in the toughest group in the entire tournament to me. They have Boston and Cleveland in their group. They do have the Wizards and the Bulls, though. So, I mean, could they go? They could legitimately go 2-2, in that group potentially, even though they haven't beaten the Bulls or the Wizards yet. So, it's kind of interesting, kind of how this goes. What are you looking at in terms of like the future of this team? Because obviously Friday they play the Wizards. That's the second game of the NBA Cup. Like I said, we should get Trey back, should get Hunter back. Do you think there's any significance in trying to maybe, obviously you want to win games, but trying to, get into the group, get past this group stage of the NBA Cup and maybe try to make a run? I said that I think it really helped Indiana because we saw as the Cup went on, games intensity ratcheted up and we felt like we were watching maybe playoff level games. Do you think there's any positive to the NBA Cup potentially?
I do see the NBA Cup as like a positive thing. Like you said, the Pacers, they kind of surprised everybody making it to the Cup. And I mean, throughout they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals at the end of the season. So you saw what happened with them. So I do think being in the NBA Cup and just these games is like, a big time to show out and let people know what you're about. I just think right now for the Hawks, it's kind of hard to even like see them because I mean it's just the injuries. Everybody's like still out. Like I mean, I would love, people would love for them to like, make that run and like, surprise some people and stuff like that. I mean, it's not out of the picture. But I think the main thing for them right now is to just get healthy. And you mentioned it at the beginning of the pod, bro. Like the Eastern Conference is not it's really up for grabs. Like that 3 through what, maybe 11, 12 spot. Like everybody has 4 or 5 wins. The only teams that are really serious right now are the Cavs and the Celtics. So if you can weather the storm, and you can stay in that mix and not let it get out of hand, these next maybe 2-3 weeks, like if you can kind of stay within reach the month of November, then you're good. I'm sure the cup will be over by then, but yeah, I mean, look, Look, I would love to see the Hawks in the NBA Cup. I would love to see them in Vegas. I just think right now it's kind of hard to see it because of everything that's been going on. But I mean, they've had some good wins, man. Like, and even the losses are like really like, of course, like the Wizards games. Everybody's like, oh, they should have beat the Wizards. Like, it's just I like what I'm seeing from them. Win or lose, I like what I'm seeing. Like I said, it's all about the process, and they're processing well on offense and defense. Just got to get some bodies, man. That's it.
Yeah, man. And hopefully they will, man. Like I said. So, I mean, because obviously Boston, Washington, get some days off between those games, and you just kind of keep chugging. Still early in the year. We're not even in December yet. We're after Christmas, where people say their NBA season really starts. So, we're still in the first quarter. Still many games to go. Hawks have time to turn this around, get back on track. And I feel like they're still going to be at least in play-in range. So, again, they'll have an opportunity to be able to play extra games past the 82 and potentially be a postseason team. It's just we got to see how things look and how things continue to develop as things move forward. But like I said, Malik, I appreciate you, man, coming on to the pod, man. Let them know one more time where they can find you.
Man, thank you so much again, bro. You guys can find me at _Malik ATL on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. Bryce, my guy, thank you so much, man. Continue to grind, man. You've been doing this for a long time, man. You're doing good, man. Mr. Consistent, bro. This is Mr. Consistent, guys. Please, Mr. Consistent.
Trying out here, man. Trying out here, you juggling job and juggling this. But I love the game. I love sports. That's the passion.
For the love of the game, man. For the love of the game.
Exactly, man. Still working to get into sports full time. So that's the next step of the process. But I appreciate you, man, for sure. And obviously, guys, y'all know where you can find me, Bryce _2K, across all social media platforms. You can find the Believe in Hawks podcast on any podcast platform that is available. Watch us on YouTube, subscribe, like the video for show. Appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode. I'm Bryce. That's Malik. See you next time.
Yes.